So, hello everybody. I'm Jim Durrett, Mayor of Montgomery County, and this is another one of our interviews of shining the spotlight on people in Montgomery County. And today, we're actually dealing with another elected official, Miss Erinne Hester, who is the assessor of property for Montgomery County.
Yes, sir.
The tax assessor.
The tax assessor.
That just doesn't sound good, does it?
Well, I'd like to think that maybe it's some kind of older language because it still comes across in deeds.
Yeah.
A lot of times you see a tax assessor in deeds, but most of the time when people say tax assessor, there's an emphasis on the tax assessor.
So we're gonna talk about your job here in a little bit, but I know because I've known you a long time, I want everybody to know a little bit about your personal history because you have what I think is an awesome career in county government. But just so start off telling us about Erinne.
Sure. Well, born and raised in Clarksville, Tennessee. I have been here for somewhere around 45 years now. I graduated from Northeast High School. I have a degree in accounting from Austin P. I married my high school sweetheart. He graduated from Clarksville High. We have two boys two teenage boys, so they're wonderful, wonderful boys. I began my career with the county it was 2005. And after I got my degree from Austin P, my first two jobs were internal audit jobs in Nashville. And then when I found out that I was pregnant with my firstborn, I didn't want that commute anymore. So came back here and got a job in accounts and budgets as, technically I was a file clerk, but I was actually brought in.
And that was when? 2000 when?
2005. Yes, because I'm 17 years in March.
Okay.
I was brought in as a file clerk, but really to help with the implementation of a new financial package the county had purchased.
That Munis?
That was Munis on the financial side. Yeah, we don't talk about the HR side, but the financial side is a solid piece of software. And then, let's see, I was promoted I was the county's first budget analyst. And really that's what started my love of county government, because as the budget analyst, I got to meet with every department head and every elected official on their budget leading into those annual budget hearings. So when you know how the money comes in and how it gets spent, you really begin to understand the operation a little bit better. And getting to know the people. My career has always been based in numbers, but it's the people that bring me joy. So as a budget analyst, I got to meet so many wonderful people. And then in 2008, maybe 2008 or 9, I was appointed director of accounts and budgets. So that was a really big deal. I was about 30. And we had a budget of about $425 million to include the schools at that time. But really it was just one step further from what I was doing as a budget analyst. And then did that for about 6 years. And then in 2013, I was appointed to assessor of property by the county commission. The assessor at the time had resigned to go back to private industry. So she called me and said, "Hey, I'm going to resign. I think that this would be a great fit for you. I want you to go home and pray about it." So I did. And my prayer became, God, if this is not what you want for my life, if this is not your will for me, please don't let me be appointed. So in December of 13, I was appointed to the assessor's office and then had an election and a reappraisal at the same time.
Yeah, okay, so I wanna stop right there for just a second.
All right.
So, you're Director of Accounts and Budgets for
Mhm.
Montgomery County
Mm-hmm.
in what I would consider a pretty stable job.
Mm-hmm.
You're appointed, you're not elected by the public,
Right.
and really, unless you just do something really, really bad, probably work there till you decided you wanted to retire and go home.
Mm-hmm. As a accounts and budgets director.
Right,
Sure.
but you decided to take it and what I think, and no disrespect to the position of Director of Accounts and Budgets, but really to another level.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you decided you were gonna put your name in the hat to try to be appointed,
Mm-hmm.
you put your name in the hat that ultimately I'm gonna be running for this position.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a big step.
I don't think I knew what I was doing. I mean, you know what you're doing,
Yeah.
but then like you don't really know what you're doing.
So you're
until
appointed
in
in
it.
December,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to run again in
August
of 14,
Mm-hmm.
and you're in a reappraisal year.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't think you did know what you were doing.
No, that's called baptism by fire. Sink or swim.
Yeah.
But wouldn't change a thing because I had to jump in both feet. I had to learn the office.
Without a doubt.
I had to figure out what the reappraisal. I had to figure out what the office did. I had to figure out what the reappraisal was and know it well enough to get in front of every civic group, every church group, anybody that would have me, to be able to say, hey, this is what a reappraisal is, and oh, by the way, I'm Erinne, you know,
Yeah.
I'd love your vote too.
Yeah.
But to be competent enough to get in front of those
Mhm.
groups and say, hey, this is this process that we do about every 5 years here. So it was the group, the team that was already in the assessor's office.
Mhm.
They got me there. They trained me, they taught
Awesome.
me, they brought me in.
Awesome.
Couldn't
So
have done
so
that.
from the, and I don't think your job is political, but from the being elected, because that makes it political,
Mhm.
you ran for it in 14, but you had to run again in 16,
I
right?
had to run again in 16 because 14 was the first general election.
So
after I
you're
was
fit,
appointed.
you run to fill the unexpired term.
Mhm.
You're appointed
Appointed.
to the next possible election.
Mhm.
Then you have to run in this, for lack of better words, a special election to
Mhm.
fill the unexpired term.
Mhm. And then the next full 4-year term, or first full 4-year term, was in 2016, which is the first year that Montgomery County had primaries. So I think I've been in office maybe 36 months and had already had like 5 elections.
Wow. Wow.
But yeah, it's
Yeah. So I want to talk about the job some too, but I just want to stay on track with that. So, and now I've kind of lost where I was going to go. So let me just swap back. So you've worked for county government for a little over 17 years.
a little over 17
Yeah.
years now.
And so, I know what I was going to say. So today it's June. I think it's June 7th or June 8th in 2022, by the way. And we have a general election coming up in August that you don't have to run for.
That's correct.
And so you're kind of off cycle with like the county mayor, the register of deeds, all of those positions, with the exception of the superintendent of the highway superintendent and the assessor of property, y'all are off cycle from everybody else.
And that's something that the state legislature did years ago to create continuity in local government. So our constitution says that we have an assessor of property, we have a county trustee, we have a county commission, and we're kind of part of different cogs in a wheel. So my job is to put a fair and equitable market value on people's real and personal property. And then the county trustee has the constitutional mandate to collect based on the tax rate that the county commission sets. So we have this internal control structure set up in the Constitution. But then the state legislature said it's probably not a good idea to have like a new county mayor, a new trustee, and a new assessor of property all at one time. We need some continuity in the tax rate.
Without a doubt, without a
So
doubt.
That's why I'm on an off cycle.
Yeah, so now let's talk about your job. So when I was elected in 2014, I had a background in county government. This isn't about me, this is about you, but I want the audience to understand where I'm gonna go. And so I come to county government, and when you're talking budget, everybody's talking about a penny. The pennies.
Yes,
the pennies.
Yes.
The penny. And so that just, to me now, it's fascinating, because what happens is that you basically established a value of the penny. And so our tax rate today is $2.99, so every penny is worth a certain amount.
Right. And that penny is a fraction. It's like one thousandth of the entire assessment of the county. So the county in market value, and you could get into an entire reappraisal conversation here, but the county in market value, so this is 2019 market value, is worth approximately $22 billion. But because Tennessee has fractional assessments, then that assessed value is a much smaller number. It's ballpark $5.8 billion. So then that penny is it is a fraction of that,
right,
used for budgeting, so that the county commission can say, here's what we want to fund, and to be able to fund that, we need this amount of dollars. So how many pennies is that? Do we need to adjust the tax rate?
Right.
For more pennies?
So just hypothetically, if the penny value is $500,000, and if you count up all the pennies and our revenue, and the county commission wants to do something bigger, bolder, more, then if there's and the tax rate's $3, you got to change the tax rate.
That's right, because the penny is only what the penny is.
Exactly.
And then the tax rate is the adjustable ratio in that formula. And I think it might be key to point out here, we've experienced just incredible growth in population. And there's so many new houses too. And people often ask, with all these new people, with all this new construction, like, why isn't there more tax revenue? And the reason is, and this is that reappraisal conversation, but I don't think you can say it enough because we only do it once every 5 years, is everything that's added to the roll today is based on that 2019 value. And those values in 2019 were, market has grown so much since then. So I think that's one thing that it's good to remind people. It's good to remind the legislators, because they get asked that question from their constituents, why do you need more when there's all of this?
Right.
Because the way the state says that it has to be is everything gets added at the same rate until you value again. And that just keeps it fair.
And so everything that's added is added at the old rate until you value again.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it's new, but it's not market. It's that old.
It's valued at a previous year's value or whatever. Golly, that's so complicated. So what is there a typical day in your office for you?
No, there's not. You'd think there would be. It's been really interesting. The last 2.5 years, we used to have these periods of time where you could let somebody go on vacation. I mean, not that I don't let people go on vacation, but you could plan better. So after our appeals, our County Board of Equalization
and I want
adjourns.
I want to talk about that in a minute.
Okay, so after the County Board of Equalization adjourns, it used to get pretty slow in the office. We're picking up new construction, making sure we've got the pro rates ready for the assessment roll. The big heavy personal property stuff is done. What we're seeing now is constant traffic related to personal property or greenbelt or investors. Hey, wanna know about what your reappraisal cycle looks like, wanna know how you value property, how property is taxed in Montgomery County, because they wanna bring projects here, but local property taxes is a consideration in what makes that project viable, so we do things like that. There is no normal anymore. It is, and I think I like that better, cause it definitely keeps me interested.
Yeah.
And we're always learning, but you can't plan for that. Hey, this is a great time period for you to take your family on vacation.
And so when you're talking about employees, and again, I'll go back to since I've been elected, Montgomery County, our employee number has grown. Your office has grown, and as part of the budget that we'll be voting on next Monday night, you're gonna grow some more from an employee standpoint, but you've needed to grow.
Right.
I mean, because with all this growth, and so that brings me kind of to the question, Jim Durrett walks in and puts in an application to go to work at the assessor's office as a field appraiser.
Sure.
I just don't come and sit down and start work. There's a vast amount of training, certifications talk about that a little bit.
Absolutely. So here's the thing. We all in the industry joke that it's the accidental profession. Nobody grows up, hey, I'm gonna go tax people's property and talk to them about their money. So, it's the accidental profession. When somebody comes into our office, what am I looking for? Are you teachable? And do you have some common sense? Is there a work ethic? And if you have those things, I'm not looking for a degree. And when you work in our office, you will be working with statistics and math, but we can teach that if you have a teachable spirit.
Right.
So it is, because of how reappraisals are in Tennessee, and I do them every 5 years, I don't know that I would consider somebody fully up to speed unless they've worked through a reappraisal year. But what I'm looking for, it's probably 18 to 24 months before you're really you can train this person, you can work with these taxpayer reps, you can work with this homeowner competently. We start with measuring and listing, and then, I've talked about inspection review a lot. The state makes us do that. So that is a great training tool to get somebody spatially oriented. And then after that, you're learning the industry, you're learning the verbiage, you're learning how we mass appraise, almost 100,000 parcels and accounts with 21 people. Yeah. So, I mean, that in itself is incredible. I think it's math. Yeah. So, and I interrupted you, and I'm sorry. So, you've got some new employees coming on this year that technically, I think you would say that I really don't need them to next year. But if you wait and hire them next year, they're just going to be, for lack of a better word, they're just going to be like a knot on log. Right. That's exactly right. It takes a considerable amount of time to get up to speed to be competent. Right. And I have an education policy in the office, and we talk about it in every interview. So the state offers really high quality classes for $25 a student. It is the right thing to do if we're going to have the responsibility of reaching in people's wallets for local property tax dollars, that we take advantage of every educational opportunity we have. So I have an education policy. Everybody that works for me will be a minimum of a level 2 state certification. If you are in commercial, if you are in mapping, if you are in residential, then within that 7-year period, and that's the IAAO standard, we will get you to an IAAO designation, and that's internationally recognized. So it's kind of, somebody could get that with Montgomery County, and then we really can go work anywhere in any local government. But you don't do what we do outside of local government. Right. You're not going to learn it anywhere else. Right.
So you mentioned earlier when you get through with your boards and all that, the Board of Equalization. So if if I own a piece of property and I get my tax card, for lack of a better words, and I don't agree with it, tell the people there is a process.
Absolutely, there's a process. Every property owner in Montgomery County has the right to appeal their value every single year. You don't have to get a change notice to have the right. Everybody has that right annually. We like to have an informal, so you have a question about your property or you have a concern with the value, we like for you to share that information with us, because hopefully we can work through it with you and not take county board's time.
Right.
But that's not a requirement. If you don't wanna work with us and you wanna go straight to County Board of Equalization, that is your right as a property owner in Tennessee. What we like to do is make sure that we have our physical characteristics correct, because it's all done by humans. There are over 200 fields that have to be completed.
So when you talk about physical characteristics, tell everybody what you're talking about.
So I'm talking about the square footage, the land, you know, is it a lot or is it an acre? Are there things related to that land that need to be addressed, like topography? You know, how many fixtures do you have in your home? Tell me about the cabinetry and the millwork.
Yeah.
Are our square footage ratios or proportions correct? Do we have the garage square footage correct? Because that's valued less than the base.
Right.
So we wanna make sure that everything that we have related to that home is correct in our system so that the value is as good as we can get it. Because again, so we don't have to go to county board if we can work it out in the office. County Board of Equalization is a group of property owners in Montgomery County representing different areas of Montgomery County, two appointed by the city of Clarksville. And our board is in the industry. They know the market, they know the houses. We have a fee appraiser, we have realtors, and they are independent of the assessor's office. So when you go into that room, they're a nice group of people who genuinely care, and they're good experiences.
Yeah.
So we haven't had any property owners appeal in 22, residential property owners appeal in 22. Mostly it's been commercial, and our entire day tomorrow just got canceled because the tax rep pulled them all because our market has grown so much. He didn't have a leg to stand on. As far as the value, it's its own industry.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of local time and resources. Wow.
So I want to ask you some questions about some other things, but this isn't one of my scripted questions, but since 2014 to today, how much has technology helped your job?
Extraordinarily.
It's unbelievable.
It is unbelievable.
I mean, we had a kind of a funny conversation today. Of one of the things that you have on your website is called Community, and it is just, I mean, it is piles and piles and piles and piles and piles of information there if somebody wants it.
If they want it. It's created so
I have
much
trouble
work
forwarding an email, as I told you today. So,
Yeah.
you know, but you help me. But technology it's really unbelievable, isn't it?
It is, and I hope that it helps the people in the community. It you know, it's kind of been a double-edged sword, really. It has created more work for us because people have gotten dependent on what we have put out there. So when it's not available or when something has to change, you know, people get upset about what they may or may not have access to, kind of like that unlisted bill. But what it has done for us is allow us to do better work, more accurate work, less intrusive. You know, people don't like you walking around their property.
No.
And we occasionally have to do that even after that house is picked
by
up.
By law, you have to physically do so many, don't you?
By law, we have to visually inspect every single property in Montgomery County between reappraisal cycles. So if something happens and that visual flyover image isn't good, if there's a tree line in the way, something, I mean, I have a mandate, so we have to visually inspect that, and sometimes that's knocking on the door saying, hey, we're with the assessor's office and we need to confirm the measurements on.
Yeah, and nobody wants that.
They
do
don't.
Nobody wants
They
that.
don't. But,
Oh.
you know, people, they generally understand, and if they don't, the staff's really good about
Yeah.
honoring that property
Yeah.
owner's wishes, but we still have the job to do.
Yeah.
So we'll get there one way or another.
But even if, you know, when you talk about the product that you have out there, community, even the stuff that y'all work with, the aerial imaging today is just what it used to be. It's just, and the tools that,
Mhm.
what's spatial,
The spatialist
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Stratum.
Stratum.
Stratum is kind of, it's the first big thing. I didn't do it. I just, you know, I think the community needs this. And if Stratum went away, I think the engineers and the surveyors, those are the ones who use it. The ones that are more technical in the field would have a fit.
And it's not something that the law requires us to do or anything like that. It's just a service that Montgomery County, and not the tax assessor, the assessor of properties office provides to the public.
It is, and,
Yeah.
and that was the goal.
Yeah.
You know, we have a lot of really great data. We have a lot of valuable
Yeah.
data.
Very much.
And the taxpayer pays for it. So
Yeah.
it
Share
makes
it with
sense
them.
that they would have
Yeah.
access to it.
What are some short-term challenges in the assessor's office? The
Growth.
assessor of property, excuse me.
Growth, just growth.
Just
keeping
growth?
up, just keeping up with
Yeah.
with the growth.
Same long-term, you think?
No, I think long term is going to be. I had a conversation with a friend a couple months ago, and he said that he'd been at a dinner, and the speaker had said something about, you know, maybe the team or the thoughts that got you to here isn't what's going to get you to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
And I have thought about that and chewed on that ever since. What's the next level of thinking? Because I have a fantastic team, but how do we get from here to where this community's going,
Mhm.
whether we want to see it or not? It's gonna go there. How do we do that in my office the best way? What's something that hasn't been done before? I mean, at some point, adding people, you have to have them. But what can we do outside of
People
just
aren't
that?
always the solution.
They're not.
Yeah.
They're not.
Yeah.
So you know, what's the next line of thinking?
Yeah.
I'm not saying it very well, but what I chew on now is how do we grow and do it as best as we can in the office.
Mhm.
I'm not talking about growth policy. I'm
Right,
talking about
right.
you know, how do we do what we're mandated to do as well as we can that might not look like what it looks like today.
Right. And then I'm kind of regressing a little bit, but I just think it's so interesting, you know, we've talked a lot about, we hadn't really used the term residential, but we kind of been talking about residential property.
Mhm.
But my gosh, there's so much commercial property in Clarksville, Montgomery County.
Commercial.
And there's not everybody that goes out and assesses a hand-cooked tire plant or a data center
Yeah.
or a 1,000,000 square foot building that makes washing machines or dryers.
It takes days to just get
Yeah.
those on the roll.
Or a train, our
Mhm.
longest industry, you know, you just don't just like, okay, we're done.
No, you
Yeah.
don't. You don't. And that's the thing when you talk about those also, man, you want it right.
Yes.
Cause that's a whole lot of money. And that does take training. And now the good news about that is we are all, whether we're in the government industry or we're in private sector, we're all using the same standardized cost
Right.
manual. So we just need to call it the same thing. We need to make sure that we know how to use our lasers and we record the right numbers. And I'm oversimplifying it, but yes, so that's it. But you mentioned commercial, and that immediately made me think, our commercial market is actually growing faster than our residential market. As far as that equalization that I had shared with the commission a couple of months back. I believe our residential was at 0.75 at the time, maybe 0.7 or 0.747. Now, well, at the same time, our commercial rate, don't hold me to it, but it was a few points lower than that. So, meaning our commercial market is growing faster than residential, and that just kind of blows my mind a little bit, especially with what people are paying for residential houses.
So this is gonna be, this question is probably easier for you to answer than other people that we've interviewed, but just say you leave here and you see somebody and they're thinking about, through a conversation you figure out they're thinking about moving to Clarksville, Montgomery County. Why does Erinne Hester tell them they should move here?
I love that question. I actually got stopped in yada yada, I don't know, it's been several months back now, and they were from Portland, and they had 2 or 3 houses in Portland they wanted to sell and then move here. And 100% for me, it's always gonna come back to the people. Our community, well, you've been here forever, and you know this. When you talk to somebody who's military, Fort Campbell stands out. You know, they've been to all the other bases, Fort Campbell stands out. We have a community of people that I guess have just welcomed, for generations now, welcomed their neighbor. It used to mostly be Fort Campbell. Then Austin Peay started growing so much. The industrial park has started growing so much. And then you've got, because the base made the decision, or the Army made the decision that the soldiers weren't going to PCSs frequently. So then families started coming here. We just have an entire community of people that it's contagious. You know, they just.
It really, I don't know that I've ever heard it used, that terminology used, but it is. It is contagious.
We just welcome people. Come. Be our neighbor.
True Southern hospitality.
It is.
And you're always gonna run into people, but that the road ragers and those people, I mean, they're everywhere, but that's a word, I promise you, I bet I use again, is contagious. And what is it about Clarksville, Montgomery County? It's just contagious.
It is contagious.
Yeah, if you come here, you're gonna get caught up in it, and you're gonna catch the disease, and you're gonna wanna be here. Wow, what a great way to end this.
Contagious.
Contagious. Golly, that's gonna go viral. I don't know what viral is, but it might go viral. No, Erinne, it is contagious. I want to say this. It is such a pleasure to work with you. You're always so helpful. And I know you have it's a stressful job, and I know what your people do is stressful. And it's hard, and I greatly, greatly appreciate it. And for you to take the step from what I consider to be a position that, as I said earlier, very comfortable, just do your job, you work, to step out into this role, it's pretty dadgum brave. Somebody needs to be contagious like you and have a passion for what they do. So thank you so much.
I appreciate it, Mayor. Thank you for saying so.